It's only been a few days since our last update, but as promised, we will begin this month to give regular updates on COVID 19 and guidelines that roll out due to changes in the spread of this virus. As you know, Pennsylvania is experiencing a spike in newly reported cases. Although the number of tests being given has also increased, we can see from the number of ministers who are being diagnosed COVID positive, there certainly is a substantial increase in the impact of this virus in our churches. A few questions have repeatedly come our way regarding last week's increased guidelines, which came from the State Department of Health. First, there are those who are asking, are we limited by capacity restrictions that have been imposed upon businesses? The answer is no, unless you're in Philadelphia. Churches, as an essential organization in Pennsylvania, are exempt from gathering restrictions. Nevertheless, mask guidelines, social distancing, and sanitization practices are strongly urged to mitigate the virus's spread. A second question that has been often asked relates to wearing a mask while preaching, teaching, or leading worship. Because wearing a mask adversely impacts those who are hearing impaired, especially those who need to see the communicator's mouth in order to understand what is being communicated, wearing a mask during communication is not required. We would strongly recommend that the communicator be socially distanced, at least 12 feet or more, to compensate for not wearing a mask while communicating or singing. For most of our church settings, this is easily accomplished. I was preaching at Bentleyville Assembly this past weekend, and they had a plexiglass shield installed on the pulpit to provide additional protection for the congregation. Although not required, it was a safety measure that communicated the value and concern they had for other people. Kudos to the leadership team for their demonstration of compassion and concern. With each conversation that we have with pastors sharing how this virus is spreading throughout their church, we hear the insight that this virus is real. It is becoming increasingly obvious that the coronavirus is not fictitious. And although efforts to mitigate the spread are imperfect, they are also necessary in reducing, though not eliminating, the spread of the virus. We can either mask up and endeavor to be careful with social distancing, or we can gamble with odds and shut down if an outbreak occurs in the church. Ephesians 5:15 in the Message Bible says this, "So what's your step? Use your head. Make the most of every chance you get. These are desperate times." As we continue to function in a culture that is navigating the demands imposed upon us by this pandemic, may we be ambassadors for faith, compassion, hope, and tangible expressions of help in our communities and in our churches. As always, if we can be a resource for information or just be here to pray with you and process the details of this virus in your local context, please do not hesitate to call upon us. God bless you as you continue to minister in these uncertain days.